Hi, my name is Jonathan Hollerman. Welcome to the bonus footage section for the Survival Bugout DVD I shot in collaboration with the Survival Summit. If you've read my books, you'll know that I believe the worst case scenario for our country is a widespread loss of the national electric grid. One of the ways we could lose the electric grid is by an EMP attack, which is what this short video will discuss. You'll notice my Jeep loses power and I coasted off to the side of the road, as well as another traveler that is coming towards me. Even if only half our modern cars were affected by an EMP, that is still going to cause an incredible amount of accidents and disabled vehicles blocking traffic, especially in the inner city locations. If you did still have a running vehicle, you'll likely get boxed in at some point and be forced to abandon it. Be prepared to walk home and bug out on foot. You'll notice that one of the first things I do after my Jeep died was check my phone. The chances of both vehicles dying at the same time and my phone not functioning was overwhelming evidence that we likely experienced an EMP attack. This is not the time to freak out. You need to stay calm and keep your wits about you. You'll likely have other loved ones depending on you to get home and help them along to your survival retreat location, so stay focused. The first thing I do is rummage through my glove compartment and center console to see if there's anything there I'm going to need down the road. You'll see I grabbed my spare magazine for my pistol and found a spare flashlight, as well as a few other miscellaneous items that may come in useful down the road. It's important that you have a get-home bag in your vehicle in case you are forced to walk home on foot. Not just for an EMP attack, but there are lots of scenarios like a natural disaster of some type, where you could get stranded somewhere and need some basic survival supplies to get home or help get you out of Dodge. You'll want this bag to be as lean and mean as possible. I know a lot of people whose get-home bag looks more like a lone wolf pack with everything in the kitchen sink in it. If you have a normal commute to work and you can walk home in less than a day, there's no need to carry all that weight home with you. One of the most important things to keep in your vehicle, though, is a jug of water. I also highly recommend having a Camelback bladder in your pack as opposed to regular canteens or water bottles, which makes it a lot easier to stay hydrated on your walk home. If you do end up dehydrated by the time you walk through the front door to your house, you're going to be hating life the next day as you are forced to head out on your long walk to your bug out location. Starting your bug out dehydrated is seriously going to compromise your ability to stay motivated, function at peak efficiency, all while staying focused on your surroundings. Another very important item is proper footwear. The last thing you'll want to do is walk home in an uncomfortable pair of shoes. Keep a pair of sneakers in your car during the summer and a pair of comfortable snow boots for the winter. Along with proper footwear, it's important to have a waterproof jacket or coat appropriate for whatever time of year you're currently in. Make sure you also have the 5 core bug out bag essentials that I discuss in the DVD. You'll need a water purification kit, a fire kit, a knife of some sort, a flashlight, as well as an MRE or two and some snacks to keep your energy up. I also carry my universal accessory patch, which I discuss in detail on the DVD, that has some small items like TP wipes, an emergency blanket, some pain medicine, things of that nature. Another common thing I see is people carrying battle rifles around in their vehicle or get-home bag. That's just an extra 10 pounds you're going to have to carry home, and it'll bring you a lot of unwanted attention on your walk. Even if you live in the city, it'll be at least 24 hours before things start to fall apart. No one is starving or desperate yet. No one's going to be setting ambushes on day one. Having your EDC pistol and a spare mag is plenty for the first 24 hours after a societal breakdown scenario. Even if you did come across some looting and rioting, just avoid them as best as possible. In the Survival Bug Out DVD and my preparedness guide, Survival Theory, I stress emphatically how you'll want to avoid getting into discussions with other travelers. This advice is mainly for after day 2 or 3. It is perfectly normal to have brief conversations with other travelers on day 1, as most people are going to be confused and unsure of what has just transpired. In my first book, the main character actually pulls his co-workers into the conference room and spends 10 minutes explaining to them what is actually going on and pleading with them to flee the big city. It's only natural to want to help those people around you. However, you want to keep those discussions brief. Your ultimate goal on day 1 is to get home to your family and get them out of town and to safety as quickly as possible. Again, I am describing the worst case scenario where your car breaks down or gets boxed in on your drive home from work and you're forced to walk the rest of the way. If you had a running vehicle in this situation and were able to drive it home, you'd want to do so immediately without passing go or collecting $200. If you live in the city or suburbs and have a running vehicle in this scenario, you must race home, grab your family, your gear, and immediately flee the city. Every hour that goes by after an EMP attack, you risk getting trapped in a traffic jam of cars fleeing the city. This is why it's so important to have your family's bug-out bags packed and ready to go at a moment's notice. So to recap, if you have a running vehicle after an EMP attack, get home immediately and get out of town as quickly as possible. If you are forced to walk home and bug out on foot, my advice is to actually spend the rest of day one bartering with local shop owners for things you may need or items you never got around to purchasing beforehand. Some mom-and-pop stores in town may still be open for business and accepting cash. This is why it's so important to keep cash in a safe or hidden somewhere in your home. The first and most important thing you'll want to consider is where your children and other family members are. You'll need to decide based on who works closer to their school, who's going to pick up which child on your walk home. Having this game plan beforehand will eliminate a lot of stress and confusion, as you'll know exactly where your children are and that they're being taken care of. If there is anything specific you need to get from a store, you'll likely want to try and acquire it on your walk home. The more time passes without electricity, more and more stores will close their doors for business. The most important consideration for your walk or drive home is going to be prescription drugs. If you or a family member need a certain prescription like insulin to survive, you must make that your number one priority. If you wait too long to acquire the drug you need for your survival, it could be a fatal mistake, as most drugstores are going to be ransacked by addicts as soon as they figure out the law and order is broken down. If you are forced to walk to your bug-out location, it's important to try and find some way to push your gear as opposed to carrying it on your back the entire way. Good examples of this would be a grocery cart, a stroller, or a bicycle trailer if you plan to bug out by bicycle. However, if you planned ahead and used a little ingenuity, there are a lot better and more efficient ways to transport your gear, even if you are working on a budget. After you've gone to the local mom-and-pop stores to acquire any last-minute survival items, you need to get busy packing. One thing to remember as you do so is to continue hydrating. I hate to keep harking on this, but you gotta stay hydrated. It's a very important topic. You probably already expended a lot of energy walking home from work, and it's important that you pound water as you can. You want to be fully hydrated when you leave the next morning. So, getting back to packing gear. The very first thing you need to do is go through each family member's bug-out bag. Familiarize yourself with where each item is packed inside your backpacks and make sure everything's still there. If you haven't done so already, you should have a paper checklist for each family member's bug-out bag. So once you have your bug-out bag squared away, you need to start going through all the extra supplies in your house. It's going to be tough to decide what to take with you and what to leave. The amount of gear you can take with you will be based on how you plan to transport it. Overflowing a grocery cart with 300 pounds of gear is going to make it very difficult to push up hills, let alone push it in a straight line. My recommendation is to pile it all in the middle of your living room and go through everything you might need item by item. I'd build 2 piles of gear and food, stuff you're going to take and stuff you're going to leave. Once you've done so, you're likely going to have to repeat this process again to pare down further the things that are actually going to fit in your cart or trailer. Be sure you are leaving enough room in your cart to place your bug-out bags on top and possibly even your battle rifles for the first day or two. The first 48 to 72 hours after the collapse should be relatively calm, and as long as you aren't encountering a lot of desperate people on the road, I'd keep your battle rifles under cover for the first day, yet quickly accessible as well. That just goes for your rifles. Always maintain your sidearm in a holster on your person at all times, from day one after the collapse until regular life has been restored, which could be a very long time. Once you've got your cart situated the way you like it, take any additional food, gear, and supplies that you have left and hide them in your house as best as possible. While I would strongly advise you against ever returning for the food and supplies, you may end up in an unfortunate circumstance down the line and be completely starving and desperate for food. After that, get to bed as quickly as possible. Try to get as much restful sleep as you can. It will likely be hard to fall asleep as your mind will be racing in a million different directions, but make it happen. First light is going to come very quickly. When dawn does arrive, you want to be sure you are on the road. You want to maximize your use of the daylight hours your first couple days. If your bug out is going to take more than 2 days, you'll likely be traveling at night soon and sleeping during the day. Before you set out, be absolutely sure you have the proper clothing and attire for your area. Be sure to wear comfortable and well broken in shoes or hiking boots. Getting a blister on the first day of your bug out will make the rest of your trip horrible. For at least the first day, stick to the largest highways in your area. The larger the road, the less elevation loss and gain you're going to experience. Highways and interstates typically go through hills as opposed to over them. They also circumvent the many towns you're likely to pass along your trip. Stay on the highways and out of the towns along your route. Another benefit of highways is that they are typically multi-lane, allowing you to keep your distance from other travelers as you pass them. On 2-lane roads, you're forced to walk right past them, and they may try and start a conversation with you. Be sure to get off the road at least an hour before dusk to allow yourself time to be in your sleeping bag as soon as it's dark outside. When looking for a campsite, be sure you find a long, deserted stretch of road where there are no homes or houses in sight. Also be sure there are no other travelers around when you leave the road. I realize you'll likely be very tired from the day's activities, but it's extremely vital that you carry all your gear into your campsite at least 100 yards off the road. If you leave your grocery cart or extra supplies on the side of the road, they're likely not going to be there in the morning. Set up camp, and if you really want a small fire on day one, it's acceptable but not advised. However, after the first 48 hours, a fire, even a small one, is only acceptable in an emergency situation. Have a good hot meal, a cup of coffee, and then hit the sack. You want to be in your sleeping bag at last light to conserve the batteries on your flashlights. And be sure you're up at first light and get on the road again quickly. You're likely going to be very sore and exhausted. It'd be real easy just to sit around, take your time tearing down camp and grabbing breakfast. Don't do that. Get up, get moving, get things done so you can maximize the daylight hours and put as many miles between you and the big city masses as quickly as possible. As you travel the next day, there's likely to be quite a few cars broken down and abandoned on the side of the road. But don't waste much time going through cars unless you see some low-hanging fruit like an unopened bottle of water on the dash or something like that. Your main focus should be on getting to your bug out location as quickly as possible. It's very important now that you are traveling on side roads that you pay a lot more attention to your surroundings. When you travel on a highway, there typically aren't any houses situated right up next to the road. But on secondary highways, there are likely more houses close by. More houses mean more people that could be watching you walk by, pushing a grocery cart laden with supplies. This is why it's so important to have paper maps with a pre-planned escape route from the city you live in. It's also vital that you actually drive your bug out route before you have to bug out. You want to be watching for sections of road that are highly residential and try and avoid those routes as much as feasible. The last thing you want to make note of on your maps are any small towns that are on your route to your bug out location. Under no circumstances do you walk through the middle of a town, ever. I don't care if you are dead tired and have to walk 5 miles out of your way to circumvent the town. Do it. Now that it's day 2, you'll need to start increasing your situational awareness. Even though things may seem calm at first with no one really freaking out, you still need to be on your toes. Stay focused on your surroundings, especially anyone you cross paths with. Keep a wide berth of other travelers and try not to engage them in conversation. The longer you are on the road, the more dangerous it becomes and the less you can trust the other people you come in contact with. Stay alert, stay focused. Pay attention to the people you pass on the roadways, but pay special attention to how they are studying you. When you start to notice people eyeballing your supplies, you're going to have to make a decision to stop traveling during the day. And whenever you do make that decision, it's best if you locate a campsite early in the afternoon. You won't want to set up a full camp though. Gather some water, eat a large meal, and go to sleep as soon as possible. You're not going to get a full 8 hours though, as you should be up and back on the road a few hours after dark. When traveling at night in a dark world with no electricity, no street lamps, and no ambient light, it's important that you don't use any flashlights, which will be quickly noticed from a long way off. Your normal night vision will be enough so you can easily walk down the middle of a road. You don't need flashlights. If you do spot someone approaching, immediately grab your bug-out bags out of your cart and step off into the woods or get to some cover. Now, you're not setting an ambush to hurt someone, as you don't even know if they're a threat yet, but you definitely want to have the upper hands if things go south. You want to make them come to you. When they get close, a high lumen weapon light in their face will surely give you an advantage. Speak firmly and tell them to keep moving. Once they are out of sight, get back to your cart and start moving again. With a pre-planned bug-out strategy, a little luck, and a lot of sweat, you'll make it to your bug-out location, where the real work will begin. One last subject I definitely want to cover is how a lot of preppers are learning and teaching themselves the wrong squad tactics. While getting professional tactical training is an absolute must, you need to realize that some of that training is not designed for a post-collapse scenario. Most military training is designed for pitched battles and winning wars by advancing the fight. Those tactics are great if you are ordered to take a hillside during a war, but as a soldier, if you get shot in the melee, there's likely a medic nearby who will call in a rescue chopper to transport you to the nearest forward operating base with the latest and greatest medical technology for treating battlefield wounds. There are no hospitals after the grid comes down, and you'll probably never make it to the nearest doctor. Getting shot, even a minor wound, is life-threatening, especially if it gets infected. You need to avoid shootouts like the plague. Your tactics should be based on guerrilla warfare. If bullets start to fly, forget winning. Your squad's only objective should be to retreat by bounding under heavy cover fire like we are demonstrating here. One person provides cover fire while the second person retreats a short distance to cover. Then the second person provides cover fire for the first person while he retreats and finds cover further down the trail. You continue this process until you are out of range of your attackers. Every engagement in a post-collapse environment should be handled exactly this way, by immediately disengaging as quickly as possible and retreating. At that point, you can rally up and decide whether or not to set your own ambush for your pursuers. Make them come to you. This philosophy doesn't make you a coward. It makes you smart and it will keep you alive. If you absolutely must engage an enemy, then make sure it is on your own terms. Get back to your retreat, get the women and children and any other non-combatants to safety, and then quickly figure out a game plan to deal with the threat. Night vision optics and suppressors are absolute game changers in this department, and I would highly recommend outfitting your squad and training with both. Again, if you must engage, use guerrilla tactics, hit the enemy quickly from a distance, and retreat just as quickly. But if at all possible, avoid gunfights like the plague. Forget all the Rambo crap. You are not Travis Haley just because you watched the Magpul Tactical Carbine DVDs and bought all the same tactical gear he's using. Never try and win a pitched battle. It isn't worth it if valuable members of your team or loved ones are killed over no real practical objective other than killing the guy that took a pot shot at you.